Hello and welcome to Ant RC. This is the gearbox, not stripped down, but I wanted to kind of look at putting some more grease in, but I don't think I'm going to bother. It's a lot better than the axles were. It's quite shiny in there and it's really well greased. All the gears are black, so you can't, oh, there you go. And it's quite well set up. As you can see from the manual here, it's quite complex, it going together, so I'm not going to be stripping it out at all. I just wanted to have a little peek inside to see what it was like. So the other side here has the bearings in these casings here, and then obviously you've got the motor pinion and a little cover that goes over the top, so the motor sits on this side and the little cover goes in there. This is the 2-speed gearbox, so you have a you attach a servo to this side and it pulls this lever here, and it then will change gears and select a different gearing in the gearbox. Very similar to TRX4. Quite intrigued to see the difference it's going to make, because on my TRX4 I only tend to really use one gear. I don't switch it very often. But yeah, so that was a quick look. No need to re-grease it at all. It's pretty good. So I'm going to put it back together now. Welcome back. The gearbox is now back together. The chassis rail mounts are bolted on now, so they're all ready to go. Everything's been, well, I've used Loctite on all the bolts as it says in the manual. I am following the manual to the very letter. I'm not taking any chances at all, because this kit's my baby and it was a lot of money, so I'm checking and triple checking. As you can see, the drive shafts are installed, and this gearbox is a serious piece of kit. I mean, it's over 600 grams. You certainly wouldn't want to drop it off the table onto your foot. And it's really, really hard to turn the drive shaft. There is a serious amount of kind of resistance in this gearbox, if you like. Hence, obviously it's a big truck, so it's going to have to be heavy duty, but yeah, I didn't expect it to be like this at all. I'm really impressed. Really good quality, really nice metal casing, hence the weight. And that bit was fairly easy. So on to the next part, which was put this down here, out of the way. The next part after putting the drive shafts on, which is listed here, is to put the chassis rails together. And I took my time with this, and before I started getting all the screws, because everything's numbered really well. It's all the parts are nicely numbered, so before I opened any bags or went looking, I decided to look at the front and the parts list, and there is a lot of going backwards and forwards. I did have the page marked, but not anymore. So I looked through at the front. You get all the part listings and how many there should be, which is really handy. I'm really impressed with this manual focus camera. It's really, really good. So it tells you what bag it is, bag FA, which you go through the kit and you find bag FA. Everything you need for this part is in here, all the screws. Normally I put all my screws in a magnetic tray. It's in the garage. I haven't done. Bad of me really, but I am being very, keeping them all together and being very careful. But going back here, the important bits obviously are the screws, and to make sure you have the right screw and you're using the right screw. Do not be tempted to think, guess it. I mean, if you do a lot of RC work, which I do, you can kind of, how much is 8mm and 10mm, but I'm not taking any chances. So what I've been doing is measuring everything and not taking any chance, because there's different screws in the kit. There's flat heads, and there's a kind of square Allen bolt heads as well. So if you do it slowly, take your time, this manual is really good, and I've been triple checking, making sure I'm using the right screws for the right bits and pieces, and again just taking it nice and slow. So you put the chassis rails together. I'll show you what I've done in a moment. So you have all the supports, so the front support, and then the supports in here in the middle, there's a few of them, and then you have the rear light buckets at the back. And again, these screws are all the same, but I measured them all. I singled them all out, make sure they're all okay. And then these screws are different. And I have to say, the kit is very good. The screws are good quality. The kit feels good quality. I'm very impressed with it. I didn't know what to expect because there's not many videos about building these or going through, and the quality, I couldn't really find much information. Maybe I was looking in the wrong place about what it was like, what the manual was like. So I'm really pleased. So let's pick up the chassis so you can have a look. It's monster, this thing. It's working on it. I should tidy up a bit, I know, but it's monster. It's huge. These are twisting at the minute because they're not screwed down, because that's coming later. But yes, you can see, if I turn it around the right way to reflect the manual, you can see here the brace supports. This is the steering servo support, and then the motor goes in the middle here. That bit's coming next. I'm not going to do that this evening because I've learned from building the other night, when you do it when you're tired, it's not a good idea, and I do not want to be doing that. I love the chassis. It's really good quality. All the screws and everything, it just feels nice. Everything just nips up and screws into where it should. So far, if the rest of the kit is like it has been so far, then I will be really, really chuffed. It's what I would expect, to be honest, with an expensive kit, but there's always that concern. So at the back here, these are what will be the light buckets. So you got 3, so that must be the reverse light, brake light and indicator. They're rubber, sorry, no, they're plastic, sorry, but they've got a kind of like really springy, almost rubbery feel to them, even though they are plastic. A weird thing to say, but hard to explain when you're not touching it, as it were. Yeah, everything's been really easy to find in the bags once I got my head around looking in the manual and, you know, checking and double checking. One thing that I would be careful of, move this out of the way, and it nearly caught me out, is to pay attention to the orientation of the chassis rails and which way they go, because following on, not from this step, that's where the motor goes in. On this step, they turn the chassis upside down. So I kind of, being a bit impatient, looked ahead, think, oh, what's coming? I was thinking, hang on a minute, are these supports the right way up? And you've got to make sure, obviously, they're the right way up and they're the right way round. So it's all there if you need it. You know, you should just look at the manual carefully. I'm a bit OCD when it comes to that, checking, double checking, and when I screwed it all up, I didn't nip it up tight. I screwed it up loosely just to make sure everything was fitting together okay. Going down to the next step is putting in the servo for the gearbox, and that part is in this bag, good old bag FA. So this will mount the, this is the mount for the gearbox servo. I have checked, and I didn't know before I bought them, because I didn't buy any servos because I didn't know what sizes they were. I assumed the steering servo would be a meaty servo for obvious reasons. So I'm probably going to buy quite a high powered servo, Power HD 20 kilo upwards. But I might use, because it's for the gearbox and the gearbox shaft, the selector shaft, which is here where the servo bolts on. It's a really lightweight rod. I have, before I put the drive shafts on, I did put a driver through the hole in the shaft that sticks out the gearbox, turned it round and then turned it around once pulling this rod out to see the difference, and it does make quite a big difference, so that's cool. So it's working as it should be. I am going to use the original FTX Mauler servo. It's a 9 kilogram servo, which is, you know, overkill, but it's a spare servo I've got and it's waterproof. So I'm probably going to use that, I think, rather than buying another one. So I'm not going to go on to this stage just yet. That will be another night. One thing I also need to be careful of is the screws, the Allen bolts that go into the chassis, the M3 10mm ones, these here. The driver doesn't sit very far into these Allen bolts. I've got a selection of drivers. I've got an I've got an IP drivers, but I snapped one because I love this driver. It's really good. But the ones for these bolts, it's a Turnigy driver, 2.5mm, and it doesn't go in very far, and I'm concerned, I can't do that one-handed, it only just goes into the bolt. Now I've tried it with an Allen key as well and it does the same, so I've been very careful. I haven't done these up too tight because I'm concerned, you know, once you get some grit, dirt in here, and it's weathered a bit, it doesn't seem to feel like you've got a lot of purchase on it, so it's something to be wary of, and I haven't done them up too tight. Been quite careful. So that's it for now. I'm very impressed. I've had a much better time with this stage than I did mounting these bead locks. 2 of those were a nightmare. I think that's just me being a bit tired, and maybe one of the tyres, the moulding wasn't quite perfectly straight. But this bit's been a joy. I've really enjoyed this, and plenty more to come. So please stay tuned. I shall build slowly but surely and keep you updated. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.